Here's something to consider. How many opportunities have you lost in your career? Not because you weren't smart enough and not because you weren't prepared enough, but because you simply didn't communicate well. Just think about it. The promotion you didn't get, the collaboration that fizzled out, the client who went silent. It wasn't your talent and it wasn't your intelligence. It was your communication, your people skills. And in today's world where we're navigating remote teams and endless tools and constant information overload, your ability to communicate, well, it's not optional. It's the deciding factor between being overlooked and being seen as the rising star that you are. Here's the thing. Interpersonal communication is no longer just soft skills. It's your career currency. You can be the best in your zone of genius and you can work harder than everyone else, but if people don't understand you and if your message gets lost, if your tone or body language creates confusion, your ideas will go unheard. Fast-track professionals who rise aren't always the smartest in the room. They're the ones who can make others feel trust and connection in every interaction. That's what I want to teach you today, how to master people skills in a way that accelerates your career, strengthens your relationships, and positions you as the person everyone wants to work with. I'm going to break this down into 7 essential practices because communication isn't just about knowing, it's about doing. First, you want to be clear and concise in your communications. Then, prepare ahead of time. You also want to master nonverbal communication and always be mindful of your tone of voice. You want to make sure you're listening intently, and you want to also build your emotional intelligence and finally contribute to a positive culture. We're going to go deep into each one, but I want you to listen not just for the tip, but for the shift in thinking behind it, because the way you think about communication will determine the way you do it. Here's what I teach my clients. Cluttered communication is cluttered thinking. If you ramble and over-explain or load your sentences with filler words, it's not because you like detail, it's because you're not clear. Clarity is first and brevity comes next. How you establish this is before any conversation, just ask yourself, what's my goal here? What do I want this person or this team to walk away with? That thought process is where communication begins. Imagine a sharp analyst presenting her findings to her managing director. She's smart, she's worked for weeks on the numbers, but her slides are crammed, her sentences run long, and her key points get buried. At the end, people are confused. The opportunity is lost, not because she wasn't brilliant, but because she wasn't clear. When you learn to distill your message into its essence, you gain power because clarity is confidence. Preparation isn't about memorizing lines, it's about mental rehearsal. Just ask yourself, what outcome do I want? What resistance might I encounter? And what questions might they ask? It's that simple. Think it through before you speak it through. Imagine a new hire is asked to pitch a project idea. He knows the content, but he hasn't prepared for the objections. When a senior person questions feasibility, he freezes. His idea is solid, but his lack of preparation makes him look shaky. Contrast that with the people-skilled pro who rehearses the entire conversation, the supporting data, likely pushbacks, and clear boundaries. When objections come, she's calm, collected, and prepared. Preparation isn't optional for high-achieving professionals. It's the invisible work that makes visible confidence. Here's the thing. People believe your face more than your words. And studies show that nonverbal cues can carry 65 to 90% of the impact in any interaction. Think about that. Your crossed arms, your restless tapping, your lack of eye contact, they're speaking louder than your carefully chosen words. Your body is always communicating, so make it intentional. Just picture a driven person, a consultant, giving feedback to her team. Her words are encouraging, but her tone is flat. Her eyes dart to her phone. Her body is angled toward the door. What message do people actually receive? That she doesn't care. Now imagine she puts the phone away, faces the people fully on, softens her expression, smiles warmly. The same words, but completely different impact. Nonverbal mastery is not to create perfection, but rather congruence. Your body language must match your intent. How about your tone of voice? It'll help to think of it as the emotional delivery system of your words because it can amplify your message or completely sabotage it. Ask yourself, am I using a tone that creates clarity, trust, and openness? Your words matter, but how you say them matters even more. If you're triggered, don't fire off that email. Don't respond in the heat. Pause, reread, rewrite. Give tone the time it deserves. We love to talk about communication and speaking, but the real power lies in the listening. Here's the truth. Most people only hear about half of what's said, and they're not really listening. They're waiting for their turn to speak. Active listening is a discipline, and it looks like this. Your full attention, no rehearsing replies in your head, no interruptions, reflecting back what you heard, asking curious questions. Imagine a talented engineer presenting an idea to the team. One colleague listens deeply and asks clarifying questions and repeats back the main point. Another colleague is half scrolling email, nodding absently. Who will they trust more? Who will they seek out again? Active listening doesn't just give you information, it earns you influence. Fast-track people often assume success is about IQ, but interpersonal success is more about emotional intelligence, or EQ. That means two things: awareness of your own emotions, empathy for others' emotions, and if you don't know what you're feeling, you'll unconsciously project it. If you don't tune into what others are feeling, you'll miss the real message behind the words. Imagine one colleague is giving feedback to a peer but feels insecure about her own role, so she's not aware of her own defensiveness and her tone is sharper than intended. As a result, the conversation derails. Another colleague pauses, notices her own tension, regulates her tone, then speaks with calm authority, and the end result is the message lands. Emotional intelligence is the hidden driver of interpersonal success. You see, we live in a flood of information. Slack, Teams, email, text, Zoom calls. Without structure, messages get lost. That's why you need an interpersonal communication framework. Ask yourself, what channel is best for this message? Who needs to know this? And when does this require a meeting, or would a concise email do? Interpersonal communication doesn't live in isolation, but rather it's shaped by culture. If your environment is built on fear, silence, or blame, communication shuts down. But in cultures of transparency, respect, and openness, communication thrives. And here's the key. Culture is not out there. You contribute to it every time you speak, listen, and respond. Just imagine two people on the same team. One contributes by shutting down ideas, gossiping, rolling eyes. The other one encourages questions and creates psychological safety. Same team, but a different impact. Which one do you think people want to work with? Which one gets tapped for bigger opportunities? You can't always control the whole environment, but you can control your part in it. And over time, that influence spreads. Let's recap the 7 keys. Be clear and concise. Prepare ahead of time, master nonverbal communication, watch your tone, practice active listening, build emotional intelligence, and contribute to a positive culture. Each of these is both a skill and a mindset shift. When you practice them, you're not just communicating better, you're showing up as a fast-track professional who others trust, respect, and want to follow. So here's my challenge for you. For the next 24 hours, notice how you're communicating. Notice where you're clear or where your message could use some clarity. Notice when you prepare or when you wing it. And notice when your tone matches your intent or when it sabotages it. Then pick one key from today and commit to practicing it deliberately for a week. Interpersonal communication mastery doesn't happen in one big leap. It happens in micro shifts, compounded over time. That's how you go from overlooked to impossible to ignore.